join, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for attending today's session. It's an Oracle Applications User Group Vendor Awareness webinar. And my name is Julie Lochner. I am responsible for sales operations at Solix Technologies. And today's topic, we'll be talking about data privacy and how to protect sensitive data in your Oracle applications. We have a pretty basic agenda today, so we'll hopefully, if you have any questions or if you want to take it in a different direction, we do have such a small small attendee, so we should be able to get through all of your questions and topic areas. So today's agenda, what I thought I'd do is kind of break it up into three areas. One is talk about the areas of risk, not necessarily from a production perspective, but other areas where we've found that a lot of, there's a lot of risk in terms of risk for unauthorized access of sensitive data. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. We'll then talk about how Solix addresses some of the challenges and solving some of these, alleviating some of these risk areas with our Enterprise Data Management Suite. We'll talk a little bit about some of the prepackaged support for Oracle applications. We recently made an announcement about our specific packs for Oracle applications. And then we'll go through a couple of scenarios just so that you guys can get a good feel for what this might be like in your particular environment. I mentioned before, if you have any questions, all of the phone lines have been muted. So if you do have questions, go ahead and use the chat box. Type in your question, and then if you want to just send it to me, the host and presenter at Solix Technologies, that's fine. Or if you want everyone to see it, you can present it to everyone. And what we'll do is we'll respond. Either I'll read the question and respond to it, or we'll respond to it privately on the chat box. So when we talk about risk areas and data privacy, we could spend a lot of time talking about, why you should be concerned about data theft and data privacy. But I think if you're attending this webinar, you're probably familiar with all of the risks and have been assigned to address them. But production systems are typically the areas where they're locked down. You've invested in technology. It has the highest level of security. You're already protecting sensitive data. So this area is usually something that has the most focus. But what happens is a lot of our clients and companies out in the market, they'll take a backup and they'll use that backup and they'll restore it for test and development. Those copies, when they're created, if you have sensitive data in that production environment, those copies on tape will also have that sensitive information. And when those copies get restored to a test and development environment, it has that sensitive data in there as well. So each copy of production where that data is sitting in the database is vulnerable for someone getting access to the database. Data could be encrypted at rest. So say, for example, if you're using encryption capability between the application and the database, that's great. But when you use it for testing purposes, a lot of times the testers need to have the right privileges and be able to run reports using those particular user IDs. So it may decrypt when they run a report and have clear access to some of that data. The other thing is that if you're making backups of your test and development environment, you will also probably realize that if you have sensitive data in the database, it's going to be in all of those backups as well. So again, for every copy where there's sensitive data, the risk just multiplies. We do have one quick question that's come in, and it's asking, is this particular solution for Oracle applications or any general Oracle database application? We're going to talk about how a generic solution, how it applies to all Oracle databases, but we'll also focus on the specific solutions and some of the prepackaging that we've done for Oracle E-Business Suite. So we'll cover both. Well, that's a good question. Solix Enterprise Data Management Suite is comprised of, it's a single installation, it's a single product, but it has multiple uses or multiple solutions that can be leveraged from that single install. We talk about Solix Enterprise Data Management Suite archiving. It's not really the focus of this particular webinar. If you are interested in database archiving, we highly recommend that you visit our website, and we will be happy to answer any questions about it. But what does archiving have to do with data security? One of the things that has to do with data security is if you're making multiple copies of databases for patch, test, and development, by archiving a good portion of a historical data into a single archive database, one of the things that you'll find is that you're reducing the number of copies of that data that may be sitting out in tape or in test and development. The second part of the solution is that what we've done, and this is unique to the market, is that we've integrated database and application cloning with data masking. And we do this to reduce risk, so that when you do create those test and development copies, when you bring those instances or those applications up in your maybe not less secure environment, the data is already obfuscated. And what's nice about that is it reduces the number of people that have to get involved with creating those clones, and reduces the number of cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, and secures the data at rest in those test and development copies. A third solution that we don't necessarily talk about when we're talking about data security, but which is very relevant, is secure subsetting. And what we mean by subsetting means being able to set of a copy of the database so that you have a smaller test set for your test or development or training. So, for example, if you have a single global instance of Oracle E-Business Suite and you want to create a training environment for manufacturing, but you have all your financial data in it, you may want to use subsetting to create the training environment with only manufacturing data where certain fields are masked. So using subsetting is, again, another way to reduce exposure to sensitive data. A couple questions that have been asked. Do you have a list of the Oracle applications modules that you support? We will be discussing those in this webinar, so hold the phone. We'll get you a list. And also, if you send us an email asking for a data sheet, I believe we talk a little bit more about what is supported with the prepackaged capability. So Solix Enterprise Data Management Suite, a little bit of an infomercial here, is a suite of products, but it's all implemented and installed using a single tool. Single install to manage multiple applications, so you don't need to install this tool on every database, whether you're running Oracle E-Business Suite or you're running a custom application, even SQL Server or DB2. We support all these databases. You can install the product once and have it manage multiple environments. It's a very modular architecture. Here we're here to talk about data security, which falls into our Secure Test and Development Suite. But say tomorrow you want to add archiving or do application sunsetting, you'd simply add those license capabilities. You don't need to install another product, which is nice. And you can enable, if you have metadata that's been pre-populated for Oracle E-Business Suite, you can reuse that metadata for archiving or sunsetting at a later time. Now, we did mention that we have prepackaged support for a lot of the Oracle applications, Oracle E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel, and a couple of non-Oracle applications, Bond, etc. So again, the same solution applies across custom as well as Oracle applications. But for this particular webinar, we'll just talk about a couple. One of the questions that came in is, do you support Sybase and SQL Server for data masking? And the question is absolutely. Again, our whole approach is, why need to install a product for multiple databases when you can install Solix in a central location and have it manage multiple different database types. And we'll talk about the technology and how we connect to those databases in a little bit. So a little bit, we did come out with a recent release for promoting our data privacy pack specifically for Oracle E-Business Suite. So if you are interested in this particular packaging, send us an email or contact us after the webinar, and we'll send you the data sheet. But what the pre-packaging means is that it's rapid implementation. All the metadata is already supplied for several of the more popular E-Business Suite modules. we, as part of our solution and our pre-packaging, with an active support and maintenance agreement, what we provide is we'll keep your data masking solution in sync with your Oracle patches, so that as you go from, say, 11.5.10 to R12, if you're on a current maintenance support agreement with Solix, we'll make sure that we apply or provide those patches through our downloadable customer support website, so that it makes maintaining those masking algorithms and the relational integrity from the data model perspective in sync. And what we're talking about on these data security packs is being able to completely obfuscate or mask the data and secure the data primarily in test and development copies. Some customers have asked if they could use this solution in production, and there are some cases where you may want to use it in production, but Oracle kind of provides an encryption solution capability that you probably may be already using, and this is really targeted at the data at rest and those test and development copies. As part of our suite, whether you're using the prepackaged capability for Oracle or you are looking at it from a custom application on Oracle or Sybase or SQL Server, we have a full library of algorithms that are available for you to mask data that's residing in a database. A couple of examples or categories. Let's go through some of these here. The first one, it says shuffling. And what shuffling means is we're going to shuffle letters or characters within the same row or within the same column, so that there's a couple of different ways that you can do the shuffling, so that the data isn't necessarily, maybe if you have an address or a set of columns in a particular table, that some records will have data from one row versus another. It makes it kind of an easy algorithm when you don't necessarily need to worry about relational integrity. Masking, is a good example actually that's shown here, is just basically replacing letters with letters and numbers with numbers, X's for letters and nines for numbers, or you can use a combination of fixed character string or a regular expression. The next one shows substitution. We also have the ability with substitution to have a lookup table. So we had one customer that wanted to be able to replace all of the first names with a set of first names that were in a substitution list. And they wanted to replace those first names with girl first names if it was a female, and first names with a list from the boy first names if it was a male employee. So we have all sorts of capability about putting in filters and rules so that you can make it a little bit more tailored to your needs. We have the standard decryption capability. This is one of the few algorithms where we do provide decryption capability. In this case, we actually will keep track of that decryption key within the Solix solution. We don't publish it, so it's not something that someone can get a hold of or becomes a key management issue. And again, this is really geared towards if you have a column that you want to encrypt and you want to send out your test and development environment to maybe an offshore development house. When they go to run a report, the values are going to be garbled like what you see in this encryption screen. But you can have them do their test and development and then send you back that now developed or tested database, and then you can run the decryption algorithm and validate the results. So that's one use case. Another use case is the decryption capability is supported in production. We have done some test cases where customers want to be able to tie encryption and decryption to the user of the database. So that's more geared towards custom applications, but the capability can be used in production as well. The next one is nulling. This is a very typical masking algorithm that a lot of people use when the field can be nulled. So in this example, we're nulling customer employee number. A lot of fields don't allow null values, so use where you can. The last one that's listed on here says custom algorithm. So in addition to this being a masking solution, it really is a platform for basically managing your data privacy policies. A lot of the customers that we're working with have already built algorithms, and that's great. I mean, if you have algorithms, it's not that difficult to do, but you want to be able to incorporate those algorithms into more of a data privacy management policy console. This is perfect. We'll take those algorithms. We support Java classes and PL SQL packages. You register those algorithms in our tool. There's a kind of a template that you have to register them in, and we can call those custom algorithms. So if you already have a library of them already, there's nothing wrong with using them, and then this just becomes kind of the facilitator and the component to automate that solution. When we talk about one of the unique approaches of our solution, Solix leverages what we call a metadata approach. And metadata really means information about the tables and the columns that you're going to mask. If you have a pre-populated, well, for example, if you're using Oracle eBusiness Suite, we will actually pre-populate the metadata for a lot of the modules. In the case where you have, say, credit card number that might reside in multiple tables, and there might be a primary key, foreign key relationship between those two tables, you can't just go and mask or alter a value in one location without having knowledge of the others, because you might break the relational integrity. As far as metadata and what we provide, what we'll do is we'll map the tables, the parent-child relationships. In the case of archiving, that's all stored in the archive criteria and stored in the metadata. Any masking policy definitions, as well as any audit parameters on those tables, are all stored in our metadata knowledge base. Once that information has been mapped, what we do is we render those tables so that you can confirm or clarify whether or not these are the set of tables that are going to participate in masking or some of the other solutions that we provide. And this becomes important, again, when you're looking at an enterprise solution where you might want to be masking data across multiple tables or multiple applications. Some of the prepackaged support that we have for Oracle eBusiness Suite, we did just recently announce it. We released it predominantly for the Oracle Financials and the HRMS system. The tables that there's a list of tables that has this data in it, but the data that we're shipping with our pre-populated templates and algorithms are to mask things like employee salary, compensation commission, social security number or national identifiers, employee numbers, disciplinary actions. So, for example, if you want disciplinary actions are usually something that's in a text field. You can null those text fields out. Healthcare information, if you're using an application that stores anything about their benefits packages, etc., those are all fields that can be masked. On the financials, a couple of examples are credit card number and bank account, so those are key. As well as within these prepackaged solutions, you can add any additional column or table that you also want to manage. One that's not listed here that I know is credit card number and order entry. So it resides in a couple of tables, and we also make sure that we scramble or mask those. Just to give you a quick example on what these solutions, this is taking a look at payments. So this particular security rule assignment, this is a screenshot from our tool where when you order some of the solutions that are prepackaged, this will already come populated with the table name AP, payment history all, the column name is transaction bank amount. The rule type here that it's using is masking data, and it's saying that it's not going to decrypt it. In the case where it might be a custom application, you typically, the tables would be registered either by you or they may already be pre-populated if it's a packaged app. You select the column that you want to obfuscate. You select the rule type from the library, much as simple as that. A couple things about relational integrity. I just wanted to add a couple more examples here. Another metadata that's particularly important for data security is what we call column references. So you may have two tables. In this example, OE order headers all and OE payments. They're in two separate tables. Their primary key relationships between them is probably not credit card number. It's probably like order ID number or something like that, depending on the application. But credit card number resides in both tables. So in this case, it may not necessarily be something that's defined in the primary key, foreign key relationship, but it is something that needs to be masked the same way in multiple places. So the way that we address that is by also defining in our metadata column references, so that when we do go to run the masking algorithm, it masks both IDs the same way. And what this requires is basically a common primary key between the two tables. So just to kind of go through an example again from a screenshot perspective, we have a list of different algorithms that are available, whether it's masking or doing shuffling. We also provide the ability to cast the data type. So again, if you wanted to add some custom masking capability above and beyond what we provide, or if you want to take what we provide, each one of the algorithms can be cast to the appropriate data type, so that if we're doing a shuffle for a number, we'll probably be casting it to a string, do the shuffle, and then recast it back to the appropriate number type. Once those rules are established, the next thing that you do is you assign the rule, and you might have criteria or filter that you may use to determine whether or not it's going to mask all the data or some of the data. So an example might be we have an algorithm that will change the salary plus or minus a percentage that you pass in. So in that case, when you have a number that is, maybe what you want to do is you want to mask only the salary. If it's greater than $10,000, make it, $10,000. Anything less than that, you can do plus or minus. You can enter in this criteria and add filters to make it specific to that particular data set. And then when you go to execute it, you should be able to query that particular column and actually look at the values of the data that have been altered. So where this might be different from an encryption solution, if you were to query this and it was encrypted, you'd see encrypted characters. What we're doing is we're allowing you to use the proper masking algorithm so that the results will look similar. So from a testing purpose, the user interface or the results that come back will still work in a query, they'll still work in a report. You just have to make sure that you use the appropriate algorithm. So one of the comments that came in that said a lot of the examples that I went through make it difficult or makes queries difficult. Actually, I think the term that this particular person used was useless. If you are doing queries and you're using, an algorithm that's just going to scramble the characters, your queries are probably going to be affected. So in that case, you might want to use shuffling or a substitution or one of the numeric algorithms that actually does, some type of percentage, or there's a lot of algorithms that I didn't really spend time on where it keeps the data in the same format. It might even keep the proportions the same, but it just mixes them up between different users. So again, our goal here is that we have gone through with some of the prepackaged, we've gone through some of the prepackaged reports for Oracle E-Business Suite and have kind of preset what some of the suggested masking algorithms are. And if you want to go ahead and change them, you can. All right. So another question that came in, it says, does it take care of masking the same value for a column, which is a primary key in one table and a foreign key in another? So in that case, what we would provide is, you can do that. What we would typically do is, if there are constraints on go to mask it, we would use the column references capability to make sure that things got masked the same way in both places. But what we would do is we would need to disable the constraint so that we can update those columns when we run the algorithm. In the case where the constraints aren't defined in the dictionary, then you just need to make sure that the column references are defined, but that it will not use that pre- and post-processing step where it disables and enables the constraint. But that's a really good question. Earlier, we had a question, does this apply to other applications? And the answer is absolutely. This solution, like I said, the metadata is already there for a lot of the packaged modules for eBusiness Suite, or at least customers that we've worked with where it's been the more popular modules that either they want to mask or they have to mask for legal reasons. What we've done is try to speed up the implementation by preceding some of the suggested policies in the installation. But for some other applications where either we haven't finished the installation packaging just yet, like PeopleSoft, we've done some work with PeopleSoft, but we haven't released it yet. It should be coming out hopefully by OpenWorld. Or if there's any custom applications that you have or custom tables that you've added to some of the packaged applications, you simply add the table. There's a registration process, and then once that table has been registered or in any relationships that need to be defined, whether it's primary foreign key or column references, as soon as that process is done, which takes a matter of minutes, a couple of points and clicks, then you can start assigning security rules automatically and start masking away. So the security rule assignments, this is just showing examples for PeopleSoft. So here is an example where we're using PeopleSoft PS_employees and national ID as our mechanism for doing that. And then when you go to look at the values in the end user application, you can see that, the screenshot quality doesn't look all that good, but the ID and the display name have been garbled. A little bit about the architecture. So the folks that have are attending this particular webinar, I'm guessing that you've been assigned to either implement a data masking solution, or you've been assigned to evaluate the different solutions in the market. There's quite a few companies that provide pure data masking solutions, and in those cases, those products would basically be, a lot of times what we've seen from our competition perspective, and even Oracle offers as part of their OEM packaging a data masking pack. In those cases, you'll get a library of functions, and you'll get the ability to either prepackage the SQL into a package body that you have to install on the source database, or you run one at a time. There's a lot of limitations in them in that you have to install the masking solution with every environment that you want to mask. Our approach has been a little bit different in that we're looking at data masking as kind of part of a process. We look at it as part of a process for cloning and creating those test and development environments. So we tie it together with additional capabilities. And like I mentioned, we also provide archiving and subsetting as well. But the product, it's a 3-tier architecture. So at the data tier, the information, the metadata, all of the policy, static details, any runtime parameters, all of the audit information is stored in a database repository. We do offer our packaging in 2 ways. Either if you have a database repository already that you're already using for other tools, a persistent database, we can leverage that same database and just give us a user or a schema that we can install to, and we're good to go. If you don't, we do have a version that pre-packages the database repository and the application server, so it's all bundled. You just hit one install, and everything gets installed at once. On the middle tier, we are pure J2 EE application, so it runs on pretty much most of the popular Java application servers. We've gone through all the certifications. if you are a big shareware user, a lot of our customers use Apache Tomcat. And then from a management perspective, everything that you do from a tool perspective is done through a browser. So we are, pure browser-based UI. There's no SIG client that gets installed anywhere. So from a centralized management perspective, this becomes a lot easier to manage and maintain if you have multiple databases, multiple application types in your data center that you need to apply data masking policies to. So it's not just a niche solution that you install for each database like you may see with some of the other companies in the market, but it is something that you can install once and you manage centrally, and it's really well suited for those environments where you have more than one database that you need to mask. Another strong point here is that a lot of times when we talk to customers, they'll have maybe 5 or 6 different database applications that store financial data. You can group together these masking policies and make reports against all of your financial database applications, all from one policy, all from the console, which becomes very nice. Another question that comes in is it says, this is a repeat question, sorry. Go ahead. So let's talk about a couple companies. A lot of the companies that are using our data security solution don't want their names used in our webinars because they don't want to talk about what solution they're using for masking. So what we'll do is we'll just talk about what are the reasons why they had to choose a data masking solution and some of the benefits that they saw. This particular one is a global logistics company based in the UK, and their challenge was they outsource the management and support of their Oracle applications. And this customer is using Oracle Financials, HRMS, and some custom applications. And it's a single global instance. And as part of the implementation, because it manages employee data in multiple countries, they are required to secure any employee-sensitive data, not only in production using encryption, but they also have to show that they're securing it in the test and development copies. And also, they create copies of their test and development copy for each country. Meaning, they'll have a copy for Spain, they'll have a copy for France, and it'll have just those countries' data in it. And what they needed was a solution that would automate creating those clones, creating a subset of data for just those countries, and masking those sensitive fields so that when they do release it to the outsourcing management team, they didn't have to worry about unauthorized access. So their solution, they combine the masking, the cloning, and the subsetting, and they were able to eliminate a lot of the manual intervention that was required by this hosting company and the DBAs to create these environments. And they did have a complete audit trail of their data masking policy when they created these clones, from the time that they backed it up to the time that they restored and made the subsets and made the masking. They had a report that showed all of the steps they did, which adhered to their legal requirements. A little bit more on that company. The other thing that they did, one of the benefits of doing the subsetting was that and the cloning was that they actually saw some additional benefits. One was they were able to reduce how long it took them to clone their database from 11 days to less than 11 hours, which was huge because they were paying by the hour how long it took them to create their clones. The other thing was because they were creating subsets for each of the countries, they reduced their storage requirements by half. So it was, this whole solution was driven by security requirements, but they got additional benefits by adopting the entire solution. And then later, what they did is they added archiving because they're going to be doing an R12 upgrade. They wanted to reduce the size of their production database so that they could go through the R12 upgrade faster. So that was actually a very interesting case because, again, the security is what started the conversation, but they just saw many more benefits. Another company in the U.S., they're actually a security company, they were doing due diligence and evaluations on all of the data masking companies in the market, but they had very complicated data security requirements. I mean, they're a security company, so we expected their security requirements to be very stringent, and they needed to be able to obfuscate sensitive data while minimizing how much effort it would take to manage that masking solution. So their biggest concern was they didn't want another, the tool to have to manage or another process, and they were really concerned about keeping in sync with Oracle upgrades and patches. So here, what they were looking for was a solution that was prepackaged for Oracle, HRMS and financials to reduce. They wanted it prepackaged so they could basically confirm that they weren't going to be spending hours reconfiguring the security policies every time they applied a patch. The other thing is that because their requirements were so tight, they needed something that was that they could take and not only use the libraries that were available, but extend it. So they were looking for flexibility that they where they could integrate their own custom algorithms as well as tailor the existing ones to meet their requirements. So they really put us through the ringer on this one, and they did evaluate our solution as compared to what Oracle provides and a lot of the other solutions. So this was a good example of where Oracle came out with their solution in November. What it lacks is that prepackaged metadata. So it's really more of a toolkit. You still have to do all the work of mapping the tables and et cetera. So we have a couple of wrap-up slides here, and then we should be getting, I have one benefit at the end of this that for those who are still hanging on that are interested in participating in a survey, we've got kind of a bonus at the end of this presentation. But back to Solix's data security solution, and just to make sure that hopefully you've heard all of the benefits here. The first thing and the key thing that the solution does is it obscures the data by replacing the actual values. So as compared to other solutions where they may encrypt it or put a view over it, we're actually updating the values in the target database. And we're doing it so that you can pick the out that users are unable to determine the actual original values. We do support when your application server incorporates encryption during the reads and writes. We fully support those steps as well. We talked about maintaining the relational integrity when sensitive data is a primary or foreign key field. We make sure that we maintain the values are the same in multiple places using what we call a columnar reference. The user interface is designed so that it's straightforward and easy to use. You don't need to be a programmer to configure and set up the policies. And we also have it set up with a very robust administration, role-based security within our own tool so that you can have those who define the policies may be different than those who actually execute them, ensuring that segregation of duties. So we've passed that test, especially when it comes to being audited from a security perspective. And then to simplify or shrink the amount of time it takes to implement these solutions, we do have this prepackaged, pre-configured masking solution for some of the Oracle Business Suite modules that I mentioned. If you didn't see yours listed there, send us a note, ask about a particular module, and we'll be happy to let you know if it's covered. One final slide here. We have been working with the Aberdeen Group. They are producing a new benchmark research study on best-in-class practices for protecting the database. This is a great opportunity for all of you guys on the phone, guys and girls. If you could just take 15 minutes of your time to complete the survey, there's a URL listed on the bottom, www.aberdeen.com/survey/database. If you take the time to fill that out, Solix has arranged for Aberdeen to provide you with a full copy of the final report upon its scheduled publication. It's targeted for the end of September. So if you, again, if you're in the research mode and you need to collect all the data for your management or look at the different options or what people are doing, this is a great way for you guys to participate in the survey and then get some free research out of it to substantiate your endeavors. So we do invite you to participate and let your own strategies and experiences and results be a part of the study. So we're pretty happy about this collaboration and hope that you do take the time to participate. So again, you guys have been pretty great so far asking questions, but if you do have any more questions that you want to submit, we'll stay on the line for the next 5 or 6 minutes, and then if you want to submit them privately, we can go back and forth on the chat on the WebEx session. So again, it was a brief webinar. Hopefully the purpose for attending it was addressed for you, for everyone. And if you are going to Oracle Open World in September, please stop by our booth. We'll have we'll have this masking solution and demos available, real-time demos. Our booth is 2623 at Moscone South. It'll be a great time, a great event for all. And like I mentioned, we'll stay on the line for a while here to answer some questions. But at this point, what I'll do is I'll end the audio portion, and we'll be answering questions on the chat. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to having you participate in the Aberdeen questionnaire, and hopefully we'll see you at Oracle Open World. Thank you.
Entered access code 3